right now we're so close to the limits, you're not going to see much. I mean, as an example, in 3rd grade right now, almost every class is at 24. And that's as high as I can go. Unless the state changes their limits, which I don't see happening, I don't see us you're not going to see a visible change at our school because our class sizes are on the larger side. Remember, when you see some of these numbers that they throw in the paper, you'll see class size in K-2 is 1 to 18. I haven't had a class of 18 kids since I've been at this school. And a lot of that is because they use an average of some of the other schools that may have extra staff and things like that. So when they average it all together, it comes out to 1 to 18. Well, the reality is we haven't had that. In kindergarten right now, we're at about 22. You know, my hope is to keep it about 22. 1st grade, we're up toward our limits at almost 24 in a class. 2nd grade, we're almost, I mean, I had to add a class 4 weeks in because we were over our limits. So I don't see it changing too much. 4th grade is high. We're about 25 or 26 in a class. They can go to 29, but you know, you may see 1 student increase, but it's not going to be like you're going to walk in and be like, wow, 5 more kids in a room. I don't see that happening. Yeah. Now, but you will see in the budget, it'll say one of the bottom, actually the most bottom thing on it will say change in formula to add 2 to every class in grades 4 through 12. What that would be is to the average. So I don't think at our school you would see that. It's not going to be, okay, you're at 27 right now, we're going to add +2 to every single class, now you're going to be able to fit 20. It's not going to be like that. Yeah. I get it. I mean, I'm usually the Hawkeye, I finish it on Thursdays.
Yeah, so we should be having, I mean, we should have it at noon on Saturday. We should have it before the kids come home on Friday.
I did see we did get it Sunday this week.
Yeah, that's happened several times.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if the nurse is there, I mean, the nurse handles it. And she's the medical professional, not me. Anybody that comes up, they usually check their temperature. I mean, that's common. If they don't have a temperature, they go back to class.
I mean, I know there's only a nurse here Tuesdays and Thursdays, but on the other days, who's in charge of it, and do they know that they should be taking temperatures and not sending kids back to class? Do they know these things?
Oh, if they have a temperature, we call home. We should be checking it every time. It's either the secretaries that usually check it, or there's sometimes a parent in there, but it's rare.
Yeah,
I would say it's rare. So the secretaries typically do, but normally they do, and I've had the same secretaries for all 4 years that I've been here. So you know, they know the policy, so I'll follow up with them and check on it. If somebody throws up and we see it, we don't let them go back to class. There are kids in our school that say they throw up and they don't.
And why my one child did not have her temperature taken that day?
Yeah, because the one day the nurse was here, so I can't answer that. I mean, I would defer to her every single time. I want kids in class, and we do get a lot of kids that come up, you know, complaining of X, Y, and Z, and I'll be real honest, I kind of treat them like my own child, and I'll say, you know, if you don't have a fever, you're going back to class, and you know, if you're still sick, come back. But that's how I handle my own child.
I volunteered for the last 2 years in the health room, and and I was on the same day, same 2 hours every time. You got the same kid coming in with the same complaint, and it was not real.
Right.
But you knew when it was.
Yeah.
You knew.
But with that being said, I mean, obviously we don't want them going back sick.
No.
So I promise you that we don't want that. So we'll definitely go back over everything again because, yeah, I mean, sickness, even though our attendance has still been pretty good, I mean, has been pretty good.
Sorry.
No, we've definitely had strep. We've had stomach virus, big time. Those would be the 2 big things that I've heard. I haven't heard any monos yet, but that doesn't mean they haven't existed.
There is.
Yeah, so strep has been a biggie, and the stomach flu has been the biggie with the throw up, diarrhea. So we definitely, those are hyper contagious, so we definitely don't want to do that, so I'll follow up on that. Okay. When I draw the names, after there's a giant tub that's in the workroom, so as teachers turn them in, the individual sheet that's filled goes in there with the child's name on and everything, and it was packed this time. I mean,
the more sheets you have,
well, I guess your odds would be better, kind of like the ping pong ball.
I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, I hoarded it this time to put them in.
I bring the box with me into the TV room and do it in front of the kids. I mean, I just reach in, I pull one from the top, one from the middle, usually one from the bottom, and we had 3 winners. I think one was a 5th grader, 2nd and 3rd maybe. And yeah, they have the opportunity to win a Webkin or a gift a $10 gift card for the school store. Yeah, that is how we do it. Though it's completely random.
I didn't know that, but
We could, and I haven't talked to Miss Smith. It's Miss Smith, right?
Yes.
I haven't talked to her about it, but perhaps we could, celebrate some of the kids that have turned in a zillion of them. Thank them for their support. Even though they didn't win, because that is completely random. Yeah, maybe we could still do that. Give them a pat on the back for collecting them, because I'm horrible at it. I don't collect them at all.
it's been the best year for us in boxing.
Yeah. So that's a good point. Okay. Anything else?
I do have another question.
Yeah.
In the Hawkeye, you made a comment that on the school review thing that you wanted to continue to move away from teacher-centered lessons to student-centered lessons.
Yes.
Can you explain that to me, please?
Yeah. Basically, what it is you don't want. It's a good question. What you don't want is that the teacher is always, the term that they use in graduate school is the sage on the stage. You don't want to be the person talking and doing all the work all the time. Really what a good lesson design should be at this point is about a 20-minute mini lesson, and then you are doing activities and students are working on tasks based on that particular skill or series of skills. Now, it's not always going to work out that perfectly, but that would be a really good way of kind of gauging it. You don't want it to be like a college lecture class where I'm talking to you for 85 minutes and then the period ends. The more student-centered you can make it, the more engaging it becomes for kids. That doesn't become a free-for-all. You don't want that. It needs to be focused, it needs to be strategic, and it needs to have a reason, a rationale. So it's not just center time. There should be a rationale to everything a kid does in the group. And what you want is when they're doing that student time, you're working on collaboration. You're working on communication skills. You're working on more student-driven products versus a worksheet all the time. It's trying to get kids more engaged in what the lessons are so they're actually learning, because what they say in research says that the more active they are in working with each other and teaching each other the skills, the more they remember it versus
and how
being
is
just
that,
verbalizing.
how is that, for lack of better words, graded or evaluated? Because some kids just are generally, I'm not participating, but they might be the smartest, get the most out of it.
And it's got to be a combination, and that's a good. I mean, it's not every assessment that you do is not going to be a group assessment, because you're always going to have that outsider that's not going to say anything. You're going to have maybe the one bright kid that's kind of slack, that's going to not, and then you'll have one A-type personality that's kind of driven to do all the work. So it's kind of you have to use a potpourri of different things, but the reason it came up is I think on the first day that they came into classes, and they didn't see it the second day. That's why I kind of wanted to have them go to more rooms. So I just thought it was a narrow view of the school. But on day one, the comment they made to us when they visited the rooms for 20 minutes at a time, which we had probably 6 rooms maybe on the first day that they visited, most of the work was being done by teachers. And it should be a combination, is more of what it needs to be. So it needs to be students doing the work and the teacher. The teacher sets the stage. All right, this is what we need to do. This is how you do it. All right, now you're actually going to do some of the work. Now, how that looks of what the work is, that could be individualized, that could be guided practice, that could be group. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can do it, but the kids should be driving some of that. And it shouldn't just be me kind of sitting up in front of the room talking in that lecture method, which is more of what we see in high school for sure. Hopefully not anymore, but it was when I was in high school. I should put a little asterisk next to that. When I was in high school, they talked to you the whole time. And that's obviously not what you want if you're trying to get kids engaged in what they're doing, because what you end up getting is a very compliant group of kids. They all sit there quietly, but you don't know what they're getting. So you have to kind of mix and match to kind of get those conversations going, so you can kind of go around and listen to what the kids are talking about. That's where you find out, are they really getting it or not? Because if not, I think we have compliant kids. There'll be some kids that'll sit there, but they try to disappear. They don't want to respond. They don't want to. They'll be they're more than happy being quiet and compliant, and you just kind of sit there and just fall into the blend into the desk. So we need to try to work multiple scenarios to try to get those kids engaged. So that's what I meant by that. But I'm guessing that's what they meant.
And that's grade level all around?
They said school. So yeah, you want it everywhere. I mean, it should be a combination everywhere. That's when we talk about workshop. that's more of that model. You're doing mini lessons of shorter length in time, and then you are having some kind of practice and authentic tasks that they're doing during workshop time. And then usually that's differentiated too at that time. So you may have multiple things going on in your room at different levels depending on the kids.
Did I miss it?
I don't think it's been in there yet, but they are going to be. And that came up, that's interesting. I had another parent email me about that, and it may have been a direct reaction to the SQR, I'm not sure. But there was a question about how come we don't do honor roll assemblies. And, I really never thought about it. The majority of the time that we get feedback from parents, it's more about the character assemblies. That seems to be the thing that most people are aware of, because when they were at Cornelius, that's how they did it. And I was at Cornelius too. I try to be very, very cognizant of the amount of time we have kids out of class, because we have them out of class a lot as it is. We do assemblies regularly for character. We have, for instance, we have a booster-thon assembly coming up next week. We have a character assembly next week, and then you have the formatives, and then you have 50 fourth graders went out yesterday for NAEP. And so you're trying to protect that educational time. The objective is definitely not to not celebrate our kids that are doing well in school. So I'm going to look at it again and talk to teachers about it. But I don't know if it was a direct reaction to the school quality review or not, but it was definitely not what. It's just nothing I've really ever thought about. So that's why.
What did you do with the additional 45 minutes?
No, that's a good question too. The answer is no. The quick and easy way to do it would be say we're going to use it for science social studies, because right now you kind of rotate them. Science is on the EOG in 5th grade. You want to embed it more. Science everybody really loves usually because it's hands-on. That would be the quick and easy way of doing it. I'm going to get feedback from teachers on it to ask their thoughts. Other things that pop into my head, you could use it for remediation. I've heard some schools talking about using it for a variety of different ways. So I think we're going to have to just look at it as how it impacts a school. You may even see it different from grade level to grade level based on the needs of the kids in that grade level with the teacher stage. So it may not be something where it's completely consistent across the entire school. It would be consistent across the grade level. And I'm trying to, I was in a meeting yesterday and I made a good point to not even think of it like 45 extra minutes, to think of it as a 7-hour school day, and just getting beyond that, because when you start thinking extra, it becomes wasted time, and I don't want it to be we just got to get 45 minutes of time, so we're just going to call it a 7-hour day and try to reframe how we look at how we're doing everything. It could be something as simple as extending our blocks a little bit. You could take 45 minutes and kind of expand. For instance, right now in 4th grade reading, or 4th grade subjects, they're in 80-minute blocks. You could expand that to 90-minute blocks. To give the teachers and students more time in that particular subject area. That would be a way you could do it. So there's a lot of different ways that we could use it. The only thing they've told us is that it can't be for physical activity time. That's about the only thing they've given us right now. Now there may be more guidance on it down the road. Gorman was in the paper yesterday or the other day and said that, and it was during the NAEP article that he said it, that a lot of schools were going to use it for science and social studies. And I think that's probably a true statement. But we do have flexibility at this particular moment to use it how we feel our school needs it. Well, I appreciate everyone. Thank you very much for coming as always.